Brant, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm great. Best team you saw last night was who?
Best team. Wow, that's a tough one. I'd say Kansas. Kansas, Villanova and Kansas played great basketball and are great teams. But I've seen a lot of Kansas throughout this tournament. I've covered all three of their games. They didn't play great. They had a couple of nagging injuries here and there, but they still were able to easily handle a pretty talented Maryland ball club. And Kansas is the best team I've seen thus far.
Why?
Well, they're experienced. They have depth. They can play, fast. They can play slow. They're confident. They have all the pieces that you need in order to be a champion. And I do think at times they get a little bored or they play down to the level of their competition. But they have everything you need, and they have last year's, one of the top high school players last year, and the MVP of last year's McDonald's All-American game, the Diallo kid, who's just an animal. He doesn't even play. So that tells you just how good and talented and how much depth they have. And, of course, Bill Self, one of the best coaches in college basketball.
What do you can you project, can you help us with this? Brandon Ingram, when you see him, the Duke freshman, how does he project to next level?
Well, he's got a great skill set. He's long. He's athletic. Prior to the start of the season, I kind of said he's a poor man's Kevin Durant, and that's a compliment to both players in saying that. But he's somebody who, in the NBA game at least, can create his own shot. He'll get better. He'll get stronger. But to be that tall, to have that kind of skill, to have that skill level, I think his game will translate extremely well at the next level. And, he's a guy, he's obviously got a decision to make. The trend obviously is to leave early, but there's some pretty good ones coming in next year at Duke. So in a perfect world, it'd be nice to see him stay and play along some of those good young players next season.
Who's Buddy Hield remind you of?
Wow. Buddy Hield, that's a good question. I think we always spend so much time comparing guys. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's a guy, though, as a shooter who can just control a game and dominate. He's done that all season. I think he had a little bit of a tough stretch last night, which is good for Oklahoma when you can win and your best player is not sensational.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is a stretch here, but, he doesn't have maybe the ball handling and creativity off the dribble. But, I think of somebody like a Steph Curry when he was at Davidson, who could dominate a game with his shooting and can really put a team on his back, and did that and had a couple nice tournament runs, at a mid-major at Davidson years ago. But, Buddy Hield's a guy that, he just hits tough shots. He's not afraid of the moment. His shots are big momentum plays. The team looks for him. They feed off of him. And he's a guy that, could really put the team on his back and win a championship. So, it's been a lot of storylines this year in college basketball, the parity, the year of the senior, and, Buddy Hield, what he's done and how he's just kind of burst on the scene and become that kind of player this year. And it'll be interesting to see if he can take that team and get them to the Final Four.
I have a friend who coaches fourth graders, and he said the Steph Curry effect on young players. Like, these kids have no problem in fourth grade jacking it up from 25 feet. And he said, I'm trying to coach them, and they said, Coach, I'm trying to be like Steph Curry. Do you see this in the college ranks, that the Steph Curry effect has had an impact?
I see it at the grassroots level as well. I have a daughter who's playing basketball, and she's in middle school, and she's a decent player. I mean, she's good. She played up on JV at the little private school that she's at. And, first of all, she doesn't listen to me. So that's I have no idea what I'm talking about. And not only does she not listen, but the talk back and the level of disrespect when I just offer a suggestion, it makes me question my own basketball IQ. But, you see with her, when she goes out, first thing she does, she's jacking up shots. And she's not making them. That's the thing. But she shoots them and has the confidence as if she were Steph Curry, which is even more troubling. But it's they don't understand that a couple of things. One, the foundation that young man has for the game, and he's put the time in and worked to get to that point where he can shoot from all over the court. And then two, I just think he's an outlier. He's one of these guys that is just obviously special. I know it when my colleagues, players like Dennis Scott, Reggie Miller, some of the NBA's greatest shooters of all time, and I'm sitting there talking to them about Steph Curry, and they are in awe.
Yeah.
When you hear Reggie Miller, and he's just like, what this guy's doing is remarkable. Reggie was, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, before Curry came around. So the level of respect that real shooters who've done damage throughout their careers, the level of respect they have for this young man is off the charts. And so, yeah, I see it. All my daughter and her friends are like, jacking it up from, the hash mark. And, it's not a pretty sight to watch.
He's Grant Hill. He's calling next weekend's Final Four semifinals. You have the title game in Houston. Jim Nance, Bill Raftery, and Tracy Wolfson. Those games airing on TBS. You played against the Bulls team that won 72 games. Did we have the same kind of awe, respect, or more than we do this year's Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. We certainly did. You had a dynamite player in Michael Jordan who just could will that team to victory and take over, was electrifying. Obviously they're different players, Steph Curry, Michael Jordan. I'm not trying to compare Steph Curry to Michael Jordan, but he's having that kind of season where he can just take over a game and punish a team with his basketball talent.
Who would you rather guard?
A wonderful.
Would you rather guard Steph or Mike?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thankfully, I never had to guard either one of them. I used to guard Scottie Pippen back in the day. It was different. And this is not a knock, and we've had a lot of ex-players sort of criticize the style of play and this, that, and the other. You could be a little bit more physical. And with Michael, you could touch him and grab him. Now, he would be physical back with you and still was able to go out and put up big numbers. But, Steph, the stuff he does with the ball and how he makes people look silly. He's making great defense. Chris Paul, God bless him. I love Chris Paul. He's a friend of mine. But some of the highlights that he's had on Chris Paul, and how he's made him look foolish defensively. And Chris Paul is a great player, and so I don't know. I probably would have opted to maybe guard Harrison Barnes or Judd Bush.
No. Pick Jordan or Curry. The whole game you're guarding them. Who do you want?
I think I would have liked to have guarded Jordan. And not that he was any easier, but having grown up and sort of being heavily influenced by him and watching him, and playing kind of my position. He's a wing guy. The challenge of using your length. Trying to be physical with him in the post. Understanding that he's relentless, coming at you every possession. A little bit, obviously a lot like Kobe. Games were very similar. I think my Detroit years, it would have been the chance to kind of go at him on both ends of the floor would have been pretty awesome.
We were talking to Chris Webber, and he always tells us that Jordan story where they're playing the Bulls in the playoffs, and they get off the bus. They're at the Chicago Stadium, and Mike is leaning next to his Lamborghini or Ferrari, and he's smoking a cigar, and he sees all of the Wizards coming off the bus. And he basically says, which one of you is going to check me tonight? But he's smoking a cigar prior to the game out there leaning on his sports car. Did you ever have one of those moments?
Yeah. No, I heard that story, and I've heard Chris tell that story a number of times, and it's hilarious. But I have a really funny story. So the summer of 1995, Jordan had already come back the year before. He's in L.A. He's filming Space Jam. You know the whole story. They built a basketball court on the lot, and a lot of the pros were out there playing pickup basketball. So I was out there for a week, and I was filming Living Single for my guest appearance with, Queen Latifah's love interest or something like that. And
or something like that.
I go over there and I play, and I'm all excited. I'm jacked up. I'm going to go over there, and a bunch of guys are there, a couple of UCLA players and, guys in the league. And that first day, I was going at Jordan. I was just giving him the business. Like I'm like killing him and, just having my way with him. And I was so excited. Like afterwards, I'm calling all my friends. I'm calling all the guys I went to college with in high school. I'm like, man, I was killing Jordan. This, that, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And he's done, and, blah, blah, blah. And
he's
then
done.
The next day, well, because this is coming off of the whole, the Orlando series. And, he had some, uncharacteristic turnovers down the stretch. And he just, he wasn't he didn't have his rhythm after playing baseball for a couple of years. So I show up the next day and I'm just like, man, I'm ready. I got this. It's no big deal. And when I say he put it on me that next day, oh man, it was embarrassing. So, but at least I had my moment.
Did you call
I had my one day.
But Grant, did you call your friends that day after Jordan lit you up to say, you know what, disregard that previous voicemail message that I left you yesterday?
No, they never heard that until now. No, that was it. That was it. So, but I had my one day.
You
That's
did,
and I have witnesses.
You owned him. You owned Jordan. That's good.
Yeah.
You know what? You rented him. You didn't own him. You rented him for a day.
Yeah, rent, owned, whatever. It was all good. I should have quit. I should have quit that day. But hey. I got a little cocky.
Hey, have fun at the Final Four. Perhaps we'll cross paths down there and tell the guys, Raph and Jim, we said hello. Thank you, Grant.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Take care.
All right. Grant Hield.